You know what time it is. Dharma King TV. I love this place. Namo Minabutsu. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, in whichever realms of existence you are, whatever mind state you're in, whatever conditions you're in. As always, you're welcome to my channel. Welcome to the ocean of the vowel stream. I am, of course, your host, Shaku Gankai. And tonight, I wanted to talk about and reflect upon another dream I had recently. Now, in my previous Dharma-Dreamin episode, I'm in regarding the Dakinis, I mentioned that I had yet to experience dreams related to the five Dhyani Buddhas or five wisdom Buddhas. And I had a dream that I think is kind of an initial dream related to the five wisdom Buddhas because it was kind of all really sort of encompassing, though it did center on the center. Though it did kind of focus there, it didn't. And I'll explain that in the course of the dream. So what I want to do is I'm gonna talk about my dream and then go through the article I want to read about the five wisdom Buddhas. So the dream basically, and I don't think it's an accident either, that the dream occurred on the night of, it was the 21st of January. So that was the night of the sixth planet alignment. Uh, I'm pretty sure it wasn't an accident that I had this particular dream on that night. Um, so uh, here goes. Um, and I don't go by astrology or anything like that. I'm fine with uh, I'm fine with aspects of astrology that are used as skill and means and are part of skill and means teaching in Buddhism and skill and means culturally within Buddhism. I'm fine with that, but I don't utilize it myself. But I think, collective karmically speaking, we do, it's everything is determined by our individual and collective karma. And then that, which includes the activities of the universe and multiverses and universes. It and the planets and the galaxies, the stars, all of that is determined by our individual and collective karma, and then that in turn does influence things. All those, it's because in Buddhism, that's one of the everything Indra's net. Everything else, everything is entangled. Everything is dependent origination. Everything is dependent on everything else. So of course, the positions of planetary bodies is going to affect things. So anyway, having said all of that, uh, it's on my mind too because it's the new year and time and all of that. So right. So coming back to the dream I had on the 21st of January was a dream in which it involved people from just about every period of my life, friends and family and acquaintances and work colleagues from just about every sort of different era of my life. And they were all communicating with me and with each other about asking questions about Vairochana Buddha and trying to understand it, asking questions about him, um, asking about the teachings, asking about his place in Buddhism, asking all these questions with me and with each other. And also, there was some kind of there not only was this planning, but there was this gathering that was going to be happening around all of this, around Vairocana Buddha. Um, so um, so they were all trying to plan this with some kind of gathering that was going to happen around this, around him. And um and people were kind of not able to, and every single person that was asking these questions, it was coming in by text to me. It was coming in by phone calls, and also this is the other thing, it was multi uh temporal as well. So the technology you had, I was getting text messages. There was text messages being exchanged between everybody involved in that. Between my dream character and all the other dream characters in the dream, there were text messages. There were also emails, for going back and forth from an earlier time, kind of like emails, like Lycos, and do you know what I mean? Like Yahoo, the original Yahoo, emails, or America Online, AOL, or do you know what I mean? Just the older email systems kind of thing. And then there was people on the telephone, but the telephones were like old telephones. They were like, push button, landline telephones, and the actual dial, you know, rotary dial, telephones. So every era of technology. Just freezing it to say quickly that what I meant by every era of technology was every era of technology from within my lifetime. So from kind of the 60s through to the present is what I meant by that. And my dream character was in this uh oh yeah, and CB. I remember there being conversations between people on CB. That was another one. See, there was CB. So I'm sure there was others that I've forgotten in the dream, other like retro technologies that were being used. Um, and also the people from every era of my life look like they did at the time of the era. So it was across time and space, uh, obviously, which kind of is fitting, with what we're going to be talking about, and especially this particular Buddha involved. So, um, yeah, and I was on this property that was kind of on a hill, and the part of the house was kind of part of it was on the hill, and it just the bottom of the house was at the bottom of the hill, kind of thing, the way it was built, and so it was kind of this. There was the property itself had came into, like, it was almost like a bowl, this where the sort of back garden of this property, if you like, the backyard, if you like, it was like this bowl kind of, what do they call that, like amphitheater kind of shaped, um back garden or backyard. And I'll translate across the pond. I'm bilingual. So anyway, so that's where I was. So I thought that was interesting because it's like this amphitheater, round bowl kind of garden, backyard. So again, centering, and you'll have directions. There'd be directions of each of those, around the bowl. So anyway, so everyone, they were calling, and I remember with not the questions kept coming, and they kept kind of, um, any bit of information they got from each other or from me, it wasn't ever enough. They were kind of like, yeah, but this or that. And I remember some of the dream characters were almost like, what does this mean for my identity? What does this mean for, this myself, the self kind of thing? Like they couldn't, like they were kind of losing, they were losing their, somehow their sense of identity. Um, related to this search, this questions, this gathering somehow related to um, the central white Buddha of the five wisdom Buddhas. And I remember the thoughts of my dream character when I would be asked these questions by the various media that is being asked them would um, be sort of like, well, eventually you got to come around to Amitabha, really. You gotta you gotta come around to Amitabha. Um, but I don't I say that's what I've done. I've come around in the end. I've come around to Amitabha, Amida Buddha, and the other power, the vow power, the light, the Nembutsu of Amida Buddha. Um, but kind of like I put it another way, you know, sometimes you got to go a different direction to get west. Sometimes you got to go north. You got to go which one's north? I think that's there. That one's north, the green one's north. Sometimes you got to go north to go west. Sometimes you got to go south to go west. Sometimes you got to go east to go west. Sometimes you got to go to center to go west. And that's kind of what I had to do when I first approached Pure Land Buddhism and Jodo Shinshu. I kind of was like, yes, but and I had to really get my head around all of Buddhist cosmology to really get it, to understand what it was all, and then to see the place of Amida Buddha within that. So I kind of had to go to the center first. I went to the center. So I went first. I was like, went west, but I was like, no, I'm gonna go back, and I eventually ended up going to the center to go west. If you see what I mean, if that makes sense on a kind of you know figurative, intuitive kind of journey, search, Buddhist path kind of level. Anyway, so where was I? So that's kind of what I was trying to convey to people. I was like, you know, I've come around to Amitabha. I've gone west, but if you want to see, there's not just this Buddha. There's the four others, and there's Amitabha, and that's where I've gone, kind of thing. And that was in the thoughts kind of my. I can't remember specifically if or how I expressed that in response to the communications. Um, in fact, I don't remember a specific response actually. I remember mostly receiving the questions and aware that people were, and I was aware that my dream character was aware that I was in some way communicating with others about it, but I don't remember details of what I actually said to them. Just my thoughts, my impressions were what I just described. Um, and and it was also an important date was kind of happened. The gathering was going to happen on an important date. Now, I don't know if that was the whole thing with the 21st, the sixth planet alignment thing, or if it was, coming into my consciousness, into my dream, or if it was because of the New Year. So the sort of universal New Year, and then the Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is at the end of the month. That's what actually, now that I think about it, now that I'm reflecting on this thing through, I'm getting a better memory that this gathering was going to happen on Chinese New Year. So that's why, and that's only, 8 days a week, 8 days, just over a week away, 8 days away. So that we were, trying to plan this out and, coordinate everybody. And remember, this is across time and space. We're apparently trying to plan this gathering, from different time periods. So, and coordinating that. And, There was also in the dream, I remember DeForest Kelly was there, Bones from Star Trek. And I think Nimoy, um, I think Uhura was there. And so there was all that between them, they were having those discussions like they have on Star Trek. The characters will at times do these sort of philosophical reflections on things, and a little bit of dialogue and sort of banter and argument around these things. And um, so that was kind of going on. It was kind of fitting for the dream. So I'll just tell you about some of the place. So there's this garden. There was also a kitchen. Um, and that's where I saw it was in this kitchen of this of the house. I think it was the house that was on the property of the bowl backyard, um, bowl-shaped backyard on the hill, kind of, the bottom of the hill that the house was on. Um, and I was in the kitchen, and that's when I saw the three Star Trek characters in the kitchen, and one of them was on the phone, I think, one of the old style phones of the era, of this house, I think. And I think this house looked like it was probably from the possibly this 70s, maybe earlier, maybe 60s era. Anyway, and it was a multi-story house, probably 3 stories, I think, to it. Um, and that's where a lot of the communication to me was centralized in this kitchen. I remember that. But there was also I was also out in the bowl, out in the yard a lot. And there was up on top of the hill, there was a fence and a path going along there that you could, and over that kind of it wasn't a tall fence. So you could kind of, when you're on that path, look over and look down in the bowl from this path that was up toward the top, either at the top of the hill or side of the hill. There were lovely trees and all sorts of things, weeping willows and, all sorts of lovely trees and plants and things. And I remember it was an old friend a friend from the late 80s that I was friends with, who was a bit of a kind of country girl, bit of a farm girl, bit of a hippie, great person. Um, um, Still friends with her on Facebook, and just a great person, a real character. I wish I had remained closer friends with her over the years. Definitely one of my regrets. And she was up on the hill talking to me about this, and I was really kind of excited that she was going to be coming to the gathering.
Just pausing the recording here, just to interject that something I failed to mention when I was recording this, and that I was on my mind the whole time, as I reflected on the dream, was that this, I believe this is one of the dakinis, or the Tara, or the consort of the main Buddha of the Buddha family, the white Vajrayana Buddha family, a center. This is the center of the mandala, and I believe this was a dakini appearing in the form of my friend. And because I failed to mention too that she was wearing a all sort of white dress, a summer white dress, with just no sleeves, but just a long summer flowing, lovely dress, white dress. So, yeah.
So yeah, so it was, trying, and I was again, there was the similar thing, her asking questions about Vairochana Buddha, and me thinking about all the others and saying that's actually the one that's, the one that's important to us ordinary beings is Amitabha, the Western Buddha, the Amida Buddha. But again, I didn't come, right out and say these things. I try to go. It's like I do in the waking dream. I call my dreams the sleeping dreams, um, whereas I call this, where I'm recording this, the waking dream, because we think we're awake, but we're still in a dream in samsaric existence. So, but and that lingo I developed because of my use of all kinds of dream techniques and lucid dreaming and everything over the years, which I'll eventually make a video about. So anyway, coming back, I was approaching these characters in a more, I don't, like I said, I don't remember specifics of what I said to them, but when I'm when I'm in the waking dream, as it were, and I the way I approach things is when people ask about Buddhism or about my Buddhist path, I'm very careful. I very carefully discuss that because I am very mindful that people have their own karmic causes and conditions. And so I'll say, I've chosen the Jodo Shinshu, Shin Buddhist, Pure Land Buddhist, other powered Buddhism path, but everybody's got to, you've got to get there your own way. You've got to get there. You've got to have your own encounter with Buddhism. And so I usually point them toward the three marks of existence slash four, sorry, yeah, three marks of existence, four seals of Buddhism. I always direct them to that and say start there because that is those are foundation to all forms of Buddhism. All schools, all paths. Start there and see where it takes you. See where your own karmic causes and conditions takes you, and the Buddhism bodhisattvas take you, according to your own karmic causes and conditions. Um, but I myself have gone west. Go west, young man. Go west. Um, so at the end of the day, that's where we all end up, is in the west. At the end of the day, there's always the sun setting in the west. At the end of the day, that's where we all end up. So anyway, but I'm just careful about that. And so I was kind of a similar thing in the dream, kind of saying, well, there's all these other Buddhas, but that's the one. There's not just this, there's all the other Buddhas and there's all kinds of other Buddhas, but this is the one that's important to me. And that's where I ended up. Like I said, probably had to go to the center. I probably had to go in every direction and go to the center and then go west, kind of thing. But because that's just how I had to understand the whole. It's always for me. It's always I've got to see the big picture. I've got to see the oceanic picture. I've got to see to kind of really get my head around something and be a part of it and immerse myself in it. So Buddhism was no different in that sense. In fact, Buddhism that I was more so when it comes to Buddhism. I did that. So yeah. So anyway, so yeah, so there was talking to her, and then there was also some travel in the dream involved. Again, trying to plan around, probably going to all four directions to help try to plan this gathering and try to answer, or respond. I guess that's a better way to say it, respond to people's questions in whatever way my dream character was doing that. Um, and I remember there was this real urgency. Everyone had this real urgency about it. Um, and I would kind of oscillate between being kind of relaxed and kind of like, okay, relax, it's gonna be all right, we're gonna get there in the end, to getting caught up in that kind of uh anxiousness about, and then I'd come back and go, no, just relax, man. Just the sun sets at the end of the day. Just relax, man. Anyway, so I think that's as much as I can kind of remember of the dream. And I really think it was a precursor to, I think, there's the bowl with the, in this, the centering on this, but then there was every direction kind of coming in and all the colors coming in. So I really think the dream was like a precursor. I think I'm hoping would be great if I'm going to be seeing at some point the five wisdom Buddhas in some form in my dreams. If I haven't already, and maybe I'll remember some dreams and realize that it, in fact, was the wisdom Buddhas. But anyway, that was the dream. So I wanted to sit down and get this dream out because it was just such an expansive, multi-temporal, people from all time periods. And like I say, just about every decade of my life, there were people as they, friends, family, acquaintances, school, school peers, work colleagues, what have you, from just about every walk of my life, every decade of my life, looking as they did at that time. When they were in my, most significantly in my life. So I just wanted to get it out and explain it before I had kind of forgotten it because it was already a really expansive, disjointed, multi-temporal uh, dream, and about this, subject, uh, theme and subject uh, matter. Finally, getting around to doing the kind of reading part of the dream reflections video. So yeah, let's do this. I've changed my Nenju here to the multicolored one because I thought it would be, it kind of has almost all the colors, uh, except for the blue in it. So got that here. So it's got all the other colors: red, green, yellow, white, and black. But black being for the, representing all of the sort of wrathful kind of side of all the wrathful deities side of the Buddha families that have that kind of aspect to them. And the blue, obviously, for the it's not blue for the east. So anyway, right, let's get to it. So yeah, um, I will share my screen and gain strength from the sharing using my favorite website for these videos and other videos, but mostly for these dream related videos, the Buddha Weekly, because I think they give it makes things they make things interesting. It's obviously Vajrayana, um, Mahayana Vajrayana Buddhism, from its, from that sort of school of Buddhism. But I just find they make it interesting. They go into some things a little deeper, not too deep, but it makes things interesting and brings out some insights, or gives the opportunity for me to kind of bring out some of my reflections. It seems like. So anyway, that's so again, copyright is all theirs for what we're reading, for the actual article that we'll be reading. And yeah, let's go from there. So, five Buddhas, five wisdoms, five mantras, their practices, symbols, seed syllables, and visualizations. And so, who are the five great conquering Buddhas, and what? I love that. The five great conquering Buddhas. And what are their five wisdoms? Why are they so important in daily Mahayana Buddhist practice? Right. So, why are they so important in daily Mahayana Buddhist practice? How are they different from Shakyamuni Buddha, who was born in our world? Okay, in this presentation, we'll introduce the important five Buddha mandala and the symbol and mantras of the five Buddhas. In other presentations, we'll explore each Buddha family one by one, and with their practices and mantras. And I hope to do that as I continue to have the dreams about the other, the different the different colors of the Buddha families, which I've already had some. Right, the five. This is an excellent video, by the way, if you get a chance to watch it on YouTube. It's basically, this is the presentation that gives the same presentation I'm giving here, only, here I can reflect on it and read it and reflect on it. So, right, the five Buddhas are often called the Buddhas of the five wisdoms, or the Buddhas of the five directions. This map-like language is not accidental. Exactly. I always say that. I always say it's a mind map. The Buddhist cosmology, whatever angle it comes at it from, whatever, because this is just the Vajrayana kind of teachings and version and narrative and you know, it's all true, but it is a mind map, and other schools of Buddhism have other ways of describing this, and there's hundreds of different mandalas that display Buddhist cosmology. So, but it's a mind map, and it's true on multiple levels. It's true on the level of how cosmology is structured, and the different realms, and the way they are, the way that beings exist in those realms. It's true on the level of and also the level of the Buddha, within samsara, that is, and then it's true on the Buddha level, but putting it in a mind map, in a language of the Buddha, the quote unquote Buddha realm or Buddha nature or Buddhahood itself, but it puts it in a framework that we can kind of get our head round. So it works. It's true on that level. It's true on the level of the actual, all these directions and all these different realms and all these different creatures and different types of beings and different phenomena in Buddhist teaching are themselves actual things that are occurring in the delusive experience of beings and in their particular realms. But it's also, as I was just saying, but it's also a teaching. Each of those is true on a teaching level. Um, each realm and each thing is an actual teaching about the truth, is a teaching about the true and real uh, um, aspect of the way things are, the way things truly are in Buddhist teaching. So and it's also true on the level of them being psychological states, mind states, um, mental states. So all three and a whole lot more of other dimensions I haven't even mentioned. It's all true on in a certain way, in certain levels, for certain contexts. Um, uh, so that's what I call it a mind map. It's yes, it's an actual display or understanding or map of reality itself, and of the multiverses and of the dimensions and of the physical realms in which, or not so physical realms as the case may be, in which beings exist. But it's also so much more. So anyway, and the reason I like the Vajrayana, that's kind of the framework I go from, is the Vajrayana mostly for the it gives it a good context for me. It's the one that makes it make the most sense, that I can get my head round in terms of the depiction of reality and all these realms and all of these um, and the related teachings and all those things. It just gives it that framework. Even though I'm definitely a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, a Pure Land Buddhist, of the Jodo Shinshu Shin Buddhist way. Um, I don't limit the Dharma. I don't limit it to, oh, well, we've got to just stick with what exactly Jodo Shinshu cosmology, or what have you. Because there's ways. So for these kind of physical aspects and mental state aspects and giving it some organizational structure, the Vajrayana depiction definitely works for me. But when it comes to um, the kind of flow of samsara and the flow of the Buddha realm, and the Buddha realm being none other than samsara, and vice versa, and all those kinds of things, and how the mental states are constructed, and how true reality actually is. There's things in Zen teaching that really clearly depicts that for me. And there's other forms of Buddhism that other things kind of there's things in Nichiren Buddhism that aspects of that really explain different aspects of Buddhist cosmology for me, like the three the 3,000 world 3,000 realms in a single moment of thought, in the Nichiren, and in the Tendai, when the Tendai Buddhist school is what is our Dharma masters came out of that. school in Jodo Shinshu. So anyway, and have massive connections to the Tendai. But anyway, so there's things that in Tendai Buddhism and in Nichiren Buddhism, that really make clear and gives me a good kind of understanding, something I can get my head around about certain aspects of Buddhist cosmology. So I use any and all Buddhism. I don't limit the Dharma. Though I, exclusively rely on Amida Buddha, I exclusively am, involved in Amida Buddha's practices and completely 100% subscribe to the Jodo Shinshu school of Pure Land Buddhism in terms of the teachings and the understanding of how that it all kind of works, through Amida Buddha's power and Amida Buddha's vow and Amida Buddha's good from the past and Amida's transference of merit and going to Pure Land and all that through Amida, and that Amida enables us to say Nembutsu. In fact, the Nembutsu is the call, is actually the call of Amida. Where actually the call is calling, through saying Nembutsu. That it's all Amida enabling and empowering me to Dharma dialogue and me to reflect deeply, and me to and it's Amida's Buddha's power through all these things, through all these practices that Amida Buddha has given us that are Amida Buddha's practice, and actually his power for our doubts and questions and barriers to be cleared from the channels. So it's all about that. But I do take in, and that's another reason, the kind of the all-encompassingness of Vajrayana Buddhist cosmology appeals to me on that level, because it's a oceanic. I take the oceanic view with Buddhism, as you know from my other videos. So, okay, having said all that, let's continue. The mind and universe mirror. The mind universe of this mandala exists in The mind universe of this mandala exists first in our minds. Boom. That's going to be saying what I was just kind of explaining in my own way. Before you think, how small is that? Remember that the average human brain has 100 billion neurons and around 100 trillion synapses. The Milky Way galaxy, our home galaxy, is roughly 100,000 light years across and only has a mass of 100 billion solar masses, mirroring the number of neurons in our brain. So that it all connects. It all does connect. I've read this before and thought about these things before. They all connect. It all connects. Pardon the pun. And then there's this bit that says the mind map is a vast expanse, and it is the mind we meet, and it is in the mind we meet the 5 Buddhas. The 5 Dhyani Buddhas, also called 5 Wisdom Buddhas, 5 Conquerors, 5 Jinas or Yinas, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. In the center of the galactic mandala is white Vairocana, which is why I think this first dream that I had was kind of introducing all 5 through the different colors. And so I was just saying, in the center of the galactic mandala is white Vairocana, and that's why I think that first dream, because it was introducing all 5, but it still was kind of revolving around things happening around an event related to Vairocana Buddha. So in front in the east is blue Ashkobia. To the left in the south is yellow Ratna Sambhava. In the west is Amida Buddha. And in the north is green Amogadishi. Green Amoga Siddhi. Green Amoga Siddhi. Sorry about that. And they interestingly often in the depictions, right here, it's here. I'm not sure now. Yeah, that's supposed to be a scope. That's Amida Buddha. I know they all share, incidentally, this is another thing about with this dream, all the colors are in each of the other directions. They all have aspects of each other. And so you do see in depictions the other colors coming in. There's the predominant color of that direction, but then there's the other colors coming in because that represents how they all kind of embody all of the kind of powers and principles and things of the all the others, So all embodied in Vajrayana. But anyway, so the original Buddha of beginningless past or the Adi Buddha or what, anyway. But they often, the West is depicted on top in the depiction of the five Dhyani Buddhas. Very often, the West is depicted at the top of the picture of the depiction, or even even when showing the Kala chakra, there'll be this thing of in the West, but it's at the top. The Western quadrant is at the top, and it's kind of saying, yeah, go here, and it's emphasized over the Kala chakra. It's like, yeah, you got all these other directions, but this is the one. This is the big one. This is the one you got to go to. This is the most important one. So anyway, it's just an interesting thing that the Amida Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha is kind of depicted. There's again, there he is. There's the West is at the top. Is the most kind of like this is the important one. That's where you should go. For most of us ordinary beings. All right. So continuing, aside from the wonder of the experience, why undertake the journey to meet the five wisdom Buddhas? Like our minds mirror our galaxy, the five Buddhas mirror the five wisdoms that are the essence of Buddhist practice. And that's, these directions, I've talked about this before. Obviously, when you're talking about a mind map or a mapping the Buddhist cosmology onto the multiverse, the directions that we know of as directions it doesn't really fit. So it's obviously communicating something more subtle, something more beyond those concepts, something beyond our words, but something to get our directions, something it's conveying something that a more subtle truth than an actual direction in the sense of a physical direction. It's a direction in the sense of a path or a wisdom or a practice or other things. So I've said that before in other videos, but raised it as questions in Dharma dialogue before. But next, so Shakyamuni Gautama Buddha, born in 563 BC. Yeah, let's just, yeah, ish. Not sure about that dating. Yeah, as I've said multiply in other videos and discussions, it might be a bit earlier than that. And there is discussion there. There's always been a little, wondering about that. And the contention, the consensus, the so-called consensus of historians, it's like the consensus about other things. It's just, history. What we know of history is such BS basically, and what we understand of the past and all that for various reasons, it's just untrue. So I'm not sure about this, 563 BC dating of Shakyamuni's birth. But anyway, be that as it may. So Shakyamuni Gautama, born at some point, awoke to the true nature of reality and the true nature of suffering. He gave us remedies for the five poisons to keep us, he gave us remedies for the five poisons that keep us trapped in samsara, preserved in sacred sutras. These poisons, sometimes thought of as inner demons, are anger, attachment, pride, jealousy, and ignorance. Now they're going to be getting into how this is another one of the aspects of the directions here. He taught us that we can become awakened or Buddha by teaching various skillful means, beginning with the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path, the five wisdoms and five Buddhas. He also taught us how to transform these five poisons into the five wisdoms. One of these wisdoms, or sorry, one of these methods is meditating on the mandala of the five wisdom Buddhas. Each has various methods, practices, mantras, praises, and each specializes in one poison, remedied by one wisdom. The remedies can be summarized as the five great wisdoms. One way Shakyamuni taught us to relate to the wisdoms is by practicing the five Buddhas through building a relationship with meditation and practice. These five Buddhas are called are called the Jnani Buddhas or cosmic Buddhas, or the five conquerors of the poisons, and of ignorance, and etc. etc. And obviously, Amida Buddha has done all these practices for us. Amida has done it, all these practices in the original Buddha of beginningless past became Dharmakara Bodhisattva and practiced all these practices for five and perfected them and for five kalpas and came up with his own, designed his own Pure Land and his own vows on our behalf. So he's done all these practices for us, and then empowers us through his working, through his good from the past, through his merit transference, through Amida Buddha's process that's just already been happening since beginningless past, because the beginningless Buddha of beginningless past did that already. But anyway, it gave us a way to understand it in Amida Buddha, and it's already happening. The vows are already fulfilled, so that's all happening, and it just tunes itself to us. Taylor tunes itself to each individual according to each of their karmic causes and conditions in each time frame and in each lifetime over for countless kalpas of time. I think it was actually 10 kalpas that's been going on, through Amida Buddha, through Amida Buddha's power. But anyway, which is an incredibly vast, long period of time. So obviously, we're given all the benefits of those practices that he did. That's all being talked about here, and that's embodied in Amida Buddha, in all of his power, in all of his good, and all of his transference. So we get all the benefit of that just through him, through those practices. So, right, where are we here? Continuing. Poison, wisdom, and Buddha. For example, people who remain trapped in samsara due to negative karma. For example, people who remain trapped in samsara due to negative karmic actions arising from the poison of delusion and ignorance would turn to Vairochana Buddha in the center of the great mandala, who helps us with his wisdom of Dharmadhatu, or the mind purified of obscurations. He helps us see things as they truly are. If our issue was jealousy, always envying others and generating negative karmic actions, then we might turn to Amoghasiddhi in the north, whose all-encompassing wisdom and activity can help us. Or if we were dealing with issues of anger, if that is the poison that persistently arises in our samsaric life, as it does it for many people, then we turn to Ascobia Buddha in the east. He helps us with mirror-like wisdom. On the other hand, if our main issue is the poison of pride, always regarding our reputation or hoarding selfishly, then we might be advised to turn to Ratna Sambhava in the south and his golden wisdom of equality and equanimity. Lastly, to many of us, the most important are the inner demons or poison of desires or attachments, always wanting this and that and never satisfied. For desires and attachments, then the eternally popular Amitabha Buddha in the West is the main practice recommended, his, with his wisdom of discernment. So all of that we just said, all of that is, relying on these different Buddhas for these different aspects. We have everything we need through Amida Buddha. Amida Buddha gives us all of that through his power, through his working, through his process, through his merit transference. All of that is, we have all those things through him, through Amida Buddha's process. So we don't need to rely individually on them. They're all embodied in Amida and come from him to us. We have everything we need through the power and working and process of Amida Buddha. It's all there. The map of the mind universe. The significance of the map of the mind universe of the five Buddhas is extraordinarily profound. It invites us to be the explorer, to be the adventurer who goes on a journey to meet the great wisdom Buddhas in our own minds. Again, Amida Buddha is coming to us, so we don't need to go meet the Buddhas. The Amida Buddha is coming to us. Amida Buddha comes to us. Amida meets us. We don't have to go to meet the Buddhas. But just get the general gist of what's being said here. It's all through Amida. All this is happening through Amida, and it's all coming from his side. He's coming to us. We don't need to go to them. We have no need to journey out to the vastness of our galaxy when our mind mirrors the spectacular spaciousness of the cosmos. Love that. Indeed. Exactly. We, the seekers of wisdom, plus we don't need to make any journeys because Amida Buddha is journeying to us, has already made all the journeys, done all the paths, done all the ways, and is journeying to us and empowering us to take the white path. It's just the white path is the power that's moving us along. So anyway, we, the seekers of wisdom, who strive for the release from the five poisons, can journey in the mind to meet the five Buddhas and their entourage. These journeys can help us. These journeys can help end our suffering. Again, all that's happening. Amida Buddha's with all the wisdom of all the Buddhas and all the Bodhisattvas and all the teachings and all the practices is giving us the benefit of that. We don't need to do anything in terms of self-power. There are efforts that we make in deep Dharma dialogue, deep reflection, deeply reflecting, deeply listening. But those are all happening because of Amida Buddha's power, and Amida Buddha's enabling us. It powers all of that to happen. All those things wouldn't be happening, but it is efforts we make. So it's not like we're not doing anything, but it's not self-powered. It's not based on our merit. It's not based on our virtue. It's all based on Amida Buddha's power and merit and virtue, and it is enabling it. It wouldn't even be happening. None of those things would be happening in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism or in Pure Land Buddhism if it were not for Amida Buddha's power making it happen. So, okay. And it's Amida Buddha through his journeys and paths and practices and teaching and all of that will end our suffering. In this metaphorical journey, it is helpful to have a map. Exactly. In Buddhism known as a mandala. Our coordinates of the map are the symbolism of each Buddha and their mantras. In this presentation, we'll navigate the map and its symbolism and introduce the five Buddhas. I might not go into as much detail now. I think I'll just leave that for when I talk about them when I'm having the dreams of them. But in other presentations, we'll explore the five Buddhas one by one. Where does the map point? Well, for us, it all points, for me, it points toward Amida Buddha. It points toward the West. That's where the map, and as far as I can see, when it's depicted mostly subtly and in skillful means, it's all pointing there. Anyway, where does the map point? The mandala is a map of the five wisdoms, the five Buddhas, the five Buddha families, which encourages each with its own wisdom to teach us. And again, all that comes to us through Amida Buddha. Symbols are the coordinates of the mandala map. Nice one. What are the coordinates of this metaphorical map? They are profound and sacred symbols. There is a reason that the mandalas are so important in Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism. They are meant to be visualized, expressing a multidimensional map of the universe in the context of the Buddhas and of the Pure Lands. The language of the mind is not words. Exactly, perfect. See the meaning, not the words. That's what we always are saying in my Dharma dialogues with various people. The language of the mind is not words. Symbols, colors, and images are the universal language of all minds. As Carl Jung pointed out in his analysis of dreams are visual. The mind recalls memories in images. The eminent Carl Jung explained the universal language of symbols. Every psychological expression is a symbol if we assume that it states or signifies something more and other than itself, which eludes our present knowledge. Since most Buddhist practice is mind work, such as sitting meditation, watching the breath, visualizing the Buddha, or intricate deity practices, the symbols, images, and colors become essential rather than arbitrary. But again, Amida Buddha is doing all that for us. So we don't have to, do these, we don't have to do sitting meditation. We don't have to do mind work. We don't have to do watching the breath. We don't have to do visualizing the Buddha. We don't have to do intricate deity practices. But I think the teaching is still important here. I think it gives context to everything. And those practices are important for as provisional teachings for extraordinary beings to be doing. So they express the knowledge, they express the unknowable in a way the mind can explore comfortably. Exactly what I'm saying. Get my head around it. Helps you get your head around these things, which is important. For this, we need the language of symbols. Dr. Alexander Berzin, noted Buddhist teacher, explains Buddha family traits refer to aspects of Buddha nature that all of us have, even worms. But in general, Buddha nature factors allow for or account for everyone being able to become Buddha. And this is kind of, I think we'll just say, talk about that, leave it at this. So the Sambhogakaya Buddhas, does this mean the five Buddhas are imaginary? Not at all. We use imagination to visualize. We always talked about that, how important imagination is for us, especially us ordinary beings, to be able to, as the skill and means for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas through Amida's power to help us understand things a bit. We use imagination to visualize, not to fantasize. Exactly. In the context of the Buddhist universe, the five celestial Buddhas are real, considered Sambhogakaya aspects of the Buddha. Exactly. They manifest in these enjoyment bodies. They manifest in these enjoyment body aspects to teach us a particular wisdom, to offer a particular practice, and to help us meditate to overcome a particular poison, just as they helped countless beings before us. And this is all happening through Amida Buddha now for us. In accord with times and with beings, Amida Buddha is doing this for all of us. We visualize not to be fantastical, but to connect with our real essence. Our minds prefer to communicate visually. Exactly. And that's why we have a visual representation of Amida Buddha that's described in very intricate detail in our sutras, and all the Buddhas for that matter. But Amida Buddha makes the visualization possible. Anything that happens in our mind, it's Amida Buddha's working. That is enabling and empowering it to happen. So anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. I hope I hope you're in the working of Amida, and in the embrace of Amida, and are saying Nembutsu, and Dharma dialoguing and listening deeply and reading the texts, through empowered and enabled obviously by Amida. So Say something. Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. 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 All right. Thank you very much. Until next